following podcast is recorded and produced by the Podcast Precinct in affiliation with the network at bicbp-radio.com. The Podcast Precinct. Consistency, creativity, culture.
Let's Talk But No Politics Okay proudly dedicates all episodes to the loving memory of Constance Chirac, who was one of the biggest supporters of the show. And we like to say thank you for everything that you have done.
Jeez, Johnny, have you seen Matt?
No, where is he? We told him this time, so I don't know where he could be.
It's probably like off recording like the panel discussion or
What a stupid podcast. Yeah. Panel discussion's awful. Eat, Sleep, and List. I do kind of like that one because I like lists. Yeah.
It's worth listening to.
Yeah.
It's that Colts fans and Bills land type thing.
I tell you what though, I've quickly, and I don't even care about football, but I'm a Colts fan now because of Matt, because of that podcast. So
yeah. He got me to hate Carson Wentz, but I don't
even know who that is. But what a weird name.
Let's check it out. Introducing the newest WWF wrestling buddies, Big Boss Man and Jake the Snake Roberts. Clunk 'em, plonk 'em. Wrestling buddies want to be your buddy.
Hey, buddy, what's going on? Nothing, officer.
Body slam!
Hey, who's the wise guy?
Big Boss Man!
Murphy.
What's going on?
Nothing, Sarge.
Big Boss Man and Jake the Snake Roberts, the newest WWF wrestling buddies from Tonga, East Oak.
How are you doing, Johnny? Doing good?
I'm doing good. I keep forgetting that I'm I'm actually just part of this show now.
Yeah,
I keep forgetting. I was waiting to be introduced like a guest, but then I realized that I've wormed my way into co-host status.
Yeah, you're
like a virus would do, you know?
No, I would say like if you live by me, like if you came to my house and you were like, "Can I get a drink?" I'm like, "Dude, you know where the fridge is now." So you've hit that status. I'm not getting you a drink anymore.
I just got to get it myself, I guess.
Yeah.
Man, that really cuts against my initiative. My New Year's resolution was to be even more lazy somehow, and you're ruining that.
But we actually do have a guest today who is, I think, co-host of many podcasts.
I've never heard of him.
You've never heard of him? Oh,
I can't wait to meet him. He's gonna be great.
Oh, he's a great guy. He's a little weird sometimes, but he's a really great guy. I don't know if you know him.
What do you say about me when I'm not around? If he's a little weird, good God, I ain't hear what I'm described.
But we got I guess he's a returning guest, but he's a new guest now that you're the co-host. Now that you're co-hosting,
this is the first time he's guested since I've co-hosted.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. That is Matt.
Oh, you can't talk until we introduce you.
Yeah.
I forgot to tell you that at the beginning. What if we were really strict like that?
You're quiet. Get out.
Speak when you're spoken to.
Yeah. You will talk when I give you permission.
This is my podcast.
That's how I do any relationship I'm in.
Body sensei. Body sensei.
Put him in a body bag.
But
who is it, Andrew? Who's this third person? Who's the third guy?
Jeez, you sound like a girlfriend berating me if I like cheated on her.
Who is this? Let me see your phone.
It's Matt Johnson. Or I could be like, I swear it's Pizza Hut.
There was this one time. This is a true story. We'll get to that here in a minute, I'm sure. There's this true story of I was talking to this girl. We were and it was getting a little more serious, and we were hanging out one time, and I was on my phone a lot, and she was getting really suspicious, and she wasn't one who was normally like jealous. So this was kind of weird to me, but she was getting really passive aggressive with the things she was saying, and she's like, "All right, who is it?" And it was literally me. I found this game where you're the Ninja Turtles. And I just couldn't stop playing this Ninja Turtle game. I was like, it's the Ninja Turtles. And she, for the longest time, didn't believe me, but I swear it's what it was. I had to level up my Raphael for crying out loud.
Is it Ninja Turtle Legends or something?
Oh, I think it's it. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
I got addicted to that too.
Yeah. See? It was a little too rough.
We are terrible. We are terrible as co-hosts and bringing in a guest because Matt
are.
is like sitting in the corner over there.
Well, it's Matt
It's okay.
Johnson.
It's been a long day. It's been a long day.
If this was Dirty Dancing, Patrick Swayze would be killing us right now because we put Baby in the corner.
We
And
most certainly
nobody,
did.
nobody puts Baby in the corner.
That was filmed near my house too.
What's it?
Lake Lure is not too far from me, if I'm thinking right.
I-
I think that's where it was filmed. It's a place
That's-
called Lake Lure up in the mountains near me.
That's cool. We got a Quiet Place too. Box
Yeah.
office success.
Well, we have one of the Hunger Games movies.
Oh,
No, we don't have that.
oh, that's pretty cool. You got the Hunger Games movies.
What do
we
we
got
have?
we got
Superman.
Niagara.
Superman. We have
Yeah.
Superman.
To
We
kill
got
a
Niagara
He
up on
saved the
Marilyn
kid.
Monroe.
He
Marilyn
saved the
Monroe.
kid.
She came here.
Yeah.
And we got that one 2-part episode of The Office.
Yep.
Oh yeah,
and we have
true.
Canadian bacon. Don't forget that.
We all have that though.
No, well,
I can get
Well,
that pretty easily. We also had Last of the Mohicans. So
oh yeah.
Damn, you got me there. I can't fight that.
Our best basketball player is best known for the player drafted ahead of Steph Curry.
well, that's like there's like 6 of those though.
No, this is the pick right before Steph Curry.
Oh, so he's the 6th pick, is what you're
Yeah.
saying. Yeah, gotcha.
But enough with movies and sports. Let's talk about.
Politics. That's what I heard this show was about.
No, that's the parody show that we're doing after.
Well, Matt steered me wrong.
My bad.
We're gonna do an SNL parody show of this right after. Where
I only agreed to do this if I could get across my really strict religious and political views. What if I just started spewing them out? And you had to just beep the whole thing.
that's where the cut comes in. Just
You got to play that, on the TV show where it's like a
technical.
technical difficulties.
The elevator music just playing over you, and then all of a sudden it just ends perfectly with. And do you understand what I'm talking about?
Yeah, and so that's what grinds my gears.
But I think this is kind of a grind my gears type situation because we are going to be talking about, like when wrestling was great for us. I grew up with wrestling during the golden age, got away from it during that whole new era type thing or whatever they were called, and then watched it into the Attitude Era. And then I haven't really watched it too much since. Bits and pieces there. I keep up, but I don't know too much.
Yeah, Andrew, me and you are about the same age. So I think our experience is very similar. So that's why I'm very excited to talk to Matt about this, because I think I can definitely speak for Matt because he's told me this, and I'm the same way. And it sounds like you're really similar. When you're a wrestling nerd at some point, you kind of go in and out of it, right?
Yeah.
So like there's some parts where I was really into it, like when I was a kid, I really was into the era as well, but then I got out of it. And then I came back during the the Monday Night Wars era, and then I kind of left it again, and then I came back, and then I kind of left it again. So that's kind of how wrestling fandom has been for me.
Yeah, it's been in and out for myself too. I started when I was a lot, pretty young. I remember like my first impressions were like the old video, it was WWF Royal Rumble for the Sega Genesis, and I fell in love with it, then, and then watched some new era or new generation. That was that like mid-90s one. And then WCW was cool because they had all the old stars. I remember like go and watch like Hulk Hogan and Kevin Nash. Like I never gotten to watch Hulk Hogan wrestle on TV before. And all those guys were on WCW. I remember my parents would let me go hang out in their room, which was like the forbidden place. It was nice and cool, and I don't know, it was just neat. And I can watch TV. I can watch WCW in there. But my parents cut me off with a lot of the Attitude Era stuff because it was a lot of nonsense.
Yes.
I mean, some of it's like it's fun to look back and watch on, but there's
Some is very cringe worthy now. For
a
sure.
little bit, a little cringeworthy, and a little bit. Why did they decide to do this? But hey, it got over.
I'm just happy that we know that Mark Henry must not be that great of a dad, because that hand, I don't think has been there for that hand. When that hand really needed it.
No, he is not.
What the wild? Nobody ever talks about that. That's one of the wildest.
He came back. The
greatest
hand
stories.
came back. I think on like an anniversary episode.
Yeah.
Yes, it sure did.
That was good. Yeah, that was some good stuff. I came back into it in like 2003 when I found out that Kane took his mask off.
Yes, yeah.
And then shortly after I stopped doing wrestling is when I just couldn't take it anymore. the magic had been ruined for me, and it continually I can't even. Oh, it's hard to look at.
Well, let's kind of
It's
give a little bit of Matt's background. Matt actually was
Yeah.
a professional wrestler at one time, so I would assume that would change a lot. Just like you said, actually knowing the magic that's there can sort of take away from it. To me, because I've made you on other podcasts tell me backstage stories, because that's the fascinating part to me. I think that, like, when you get to quote unquote meet your heroes or whatever, and they're not quite what you would hope they would be, or that kind of thing, that would definitely take a lot of the magic out of it for me.
It's a weird thing though, because I can sit and watch and listen to stories of the older days from when I was growing up. That mid 90s to probably 2008. 2000. I mean, I started slowing down around like 09 a little. Oh no, I can't even say that. But like around that period, like I love watching old videos and stuff of things that I used to watch. But I don't know what it is. Actually, I probably do know what it is with the newer, the current product, both WWE and AEW. I can't find myself to sit there live and enjoy it. And watch it live. It's weird.
Is it because you know what it is? Like, I feel because
No,
I know what it is at some points, that it's very hard. It's the best way I could describe it is I used to love Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas as a kid. Thought it would, let me work this analogy. Let me work this analogy. Okay.
Please do. I'm very excited.
Let me work
about
this analogy. So I loved this movie as a kid. And then I sat down and I watched it as an adult. And it's a bunch of, puppets. And then I saw the strings. I saw the hand kind of moving the puppet for this fish. So it took a little bit of the magic away. I know I still watch it, but the magic isn't what I wanted it. It isn't what's 100% there anymore.
Yeah, like I said, it's so hard. I do a lot of the stuff I watch. Like I said, I like the drama. I like the behind the scenes drama, and I love the skits and segments from way back when. I think that's like, it's hard for me to sit and watch an actual pro wrestling match nowadays. But also, I mean, it's changed so much, and apparently it's getting better now that we're in a different era, the post Vince McMahon era. But I don't know, guys just don't stand out anymore like they used to. Guys and girls, excuse me, guys and girls.
I would say that the girls do stand out better than they used to.
No doubt.
But I get what you're saying. It's like,
I feel like they're
if I was to say, if I was to say, just grab somebody random on the street and say, name a current wrestler who's your favorite, right? Like, back in the day, obviously, be like people like Stone Cold, The Rock. Those would be quick answers that you could guarantee you would get, because anybody on the street would know who those names are, even if you're not super familiar with wrestling, because they're big superstars, kind of larger than life characters. Yeah. And that today is not as much the case. And there's wrestlers that I like and enjoy now, but I guarantee, like, if I went around telling people about Johnny Gargano, I guarantee a lot of people would just look at me with a blank stare.
Yeah. No, it's like with the women's wrestling and stuff. Like, I'm great. I'm like happy that it's gotten so much better talent wise. But the way I think they're portrayed does them a disservice. Like, I'll remember and recognize a big name, like somebody who stands out, like China, right? Like China did back in the day, versus a group of people with the most basic of white girl names, Bailey and Nikki and Brie and Jamie and Chris. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it just all kind of blends. It's not like China or Sable. It's
or Stratus.
But it's a bunch of people that you just like, a bunch of names, like literally names of everybody you hated in high school. Like, they don't stand out.
Yeah.
I agree with Johnny. There really is nobody that transcends into the realm of outside and more into like pop culture, where you're like, oh my goodness, that Michael Jordan type status.
Right. The Michael Jordan, Hulk Hogan, Tom. There's all these names in other sports like Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Everybody be like, oh yeah, it's a football
Jake
player.
DeLome.
Yeah, Jake Delhomme for sure. Those names. But like today, what Roman Reigns might be like one of the bigger names, and I guarantee you most people like just don't care.
I think it
Yeah.
would be Roman Reigns, but he's nowhere near like if you watch
Oh, I know,
Stone Cold and the
agree.
Rocks and
Yeah,
Hulk Hogan, Macho Man's. He's cool, but he doesn't have that thing. And I think the closest one today to any of those guys is Brock Lesnar, but he's a part timer. So therefore, why should I watch it all the time?
Right. No, see, I think the issue is why it can't, because they legit all come from the same training ideology now. Back then, they used to just pull, like, you would come up and you had to kind of figure things out on your own, right? You had to figure out your gimmick and who you wanted to be. Sometimes a promoter, a booker, or whomever would help you mold that, change it a little bit. But nowadays, they all go, all of them come through. A lot of the current roster now came through Florida Championship Wrestling, which changed to NXT. So it's really never changed and all that. And they've all been like, they've been force fed. This is what you're going to do. This is how you do it. And you do it to a T and you have to do it. You got to read these specific lines. Like that's hard. There's limited variety when it comes to a lot of talents now.
I agree with that.
Cutter mentality is there.
I agree with you completely on that. I think that's really hurt wrestling in that everybody kind of styles very similar. Like even I remember because I listened to a lot of the old wrestlers when they were talking about the good old days, and like they'll talk about how back in their day that like if you were a heel or a bad guy, like you would kind of stay away from high spots and stuff like that, right? Because you're not there to get cheers, you're there to be the bad guy and get booed. But now it's like if you don't have at least one high spot in your move set, then people are like, well, this guy can't wrestle,
Well, the Dudley Boys talked about that when they were going over to WWF. They told Vince McMahon, they were like, listen, we are old school heels. We're going to piss off the audience. And if you watch any of their ECW stuff, they don't care what they say. And they said, and we don't sign autographs. We don't do this. We're not going to take pictures. We're not going to do anything with the fans because that's what we are. And Vince McMahon told them, no, you are going to sign autographs. You are going to take pictures with the fans. This is what you're going to do. So, and you can see that. And if you watch, I like to watch the old territory wrestling.
Yes. Yeah.
On YouTube, and you watch the world class championship wrestling because I got a weird fascination with the Von Erichs, and you can see the faces or the baby faces signing autographs for kids in the crowds while they're in the ring, and the heels are just being real angry and running over and trying to attack them, do the fake attack and pull back,
being big b-holes.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things is
I do miss that.
That's a really great point. I've been reading this this book that was suggested to me recently. I'm going through a bit of a phase in my life right now where I'm trying to do some self-healing and just be a better person. This journey to Ixtalan is the lessons of Don Juan. And one of the lessons that is brought up is the mystery, right? People love a good mystery. If you get to know somebody too well, sometimes it could be for the detriment in a way. People love the mystery. And right now, current like wrestlers and stuff, everything about them because of social media. They're way too accessible. Everything about them. They're if you tried hard enough, their damn social security numbers, political views and what their interests are. There's no mystery at all.
Right.
And I think that's what that's why I got like Undertaker, like for a variety of reasons he would not have gone over in today if he came up through today's era, not just because of the gimmick, but
I do respect that he kind of stayed away from that stuff until he pretty much retired.
Right.
I do like that aspect of it, but you're definitely right on that. And it's there's this quote that I heard on this one wrestling podcast, and it was like, hey, I want to be worked, right? Like I want you, quote unquote, work me, which means make me believe it.
Yeah.
Right. Fake me out. I want that for me when I'm watching wrestling. And I was like, oh, me too. I really do. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love, and I'm always searching out like the backstage story stuff because that is fascinating to me. But at the same time, when I'm watching something like, like the actual wrestling product, I want that to be working me, right? I don't want to, uh, I don't want to be able to be like, well, I'm just going to be on social media and, I think like right now, one of my favorite wrestlers is Kevin Owens, right? I really like Kevin Owens.
Oh, he's fantastic.
And his Twitter game is still pretty good too. But he definitely is on Twitter a lot, right? But I like how he uses it. But still, I know that he likes, he loves animals, he loves his family and all this stuff. That's because of his Twitter. And and I'm like, man, I don't really need to know this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then again, it's my fault because I follow him and everything he tweets, I make sure I read. So,
Right. I mean, you're gonna see it at some point, or some half-assed article is some half-assed sports writer.
5 stars.
They're like, oh, look what this person said, and they write some kind of clickbait article about it. So it's so tricky. The mystery is gone, and WWE as a part to play in that. They've loved turning, pulling back the curtain. They've really loved like it kind of exposing it. Where before it happened in little teeny tiny glimpses. It was just enough to wet your whistle.
I remember when I was a kid or a young teenager, there was literally like a special, like an ABC or NBC something special that came out saying the tricks behind pro wrestling. And they were like exposing pro wrestling.
They had the people with the voice changers and the masks. They wouldn't. I do remember that.
Well, isn't that it's kind of this what you were talking about? Like what we knew about Stone Cold was he was a redneck from Texas that drank beer and he didn't trust anybody. And we were fine with that. And he rode on a 4-wheeler and he would go hunting. And we were fine about that.
When I was really into Kane, because I really loved Kane, like I didn't even realize that he used to be a Jerry Lawler's dentist. I didn't know that. Like I just thought, oh man, this is Kane. This is Undertaker's brother, right?
Yeah.
And now he's like a
and it ruined it for you.
So.
Yeah, and it ruined it for you too when you found out that they weren't actually brothers, right? When the shroud of mystery was up there, when there was something to when there's you really want to get to the bottom of it. Knowing is it's unfortunate.
It is half the battle, but it also ruins it.
Yeah, Edge and Christian are in the same boat with that too. You're like, oh, here they are, they're brothers, older brother, and then all of a sudden they slowly went from brothers to best friends.
Well, it's because in real life they were best friends, but and they kind of got into wrestling together. But I know what you're saying.
They kind of look the same. They look kind of look the same. There's so many different characters over the years that have.
There's so many wrestlers too that like they would portray like they were from a certain place because they kind of look like they were from a certain place, and then you'd find out later that they weren't at all.
Well, look at
like they were just Italian or something.
as we start
Yokozuna.
As we start the fight, look at Lex Luger. When he got into it, they were like, "Hey, where are you from?" And he's like, "I'm from Buffalo, New York." And they're like, "No, that's not cool. You're from Chicago, Illinois." So that's kind of like the thing. Hulk Hogan was from Venice Beach, and yet he was born in Tampa, and that was the stuff that we wanted.
My favorite is the wrestlers were from Truth and Consequences.
Yes.
I love that stuff.
Parts unknown.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's the stuff that you ate up, and that luxury of things, especially the guys that would come out and portrayed like they had tons of money. Just absolute tons and tons of money. The Rock with the $5,000 or $500 or $5,000. Yes. And that was like the whole thing. So that's why I don't understand why Vince McMahon all of a sudden, I don't know if it was because they had to do it, but he was like, even though he was going national, he did keep everything very tight-lipped. Like the whole Duggan and Iron Sheik type thing.
Steroid trial.
Yeah.
He had to come out and say that wrestling was what it was.
Yeah.
That's legit, just because it was an insurance thing. I think it was insurance or some tax break, and he legit told the world that pro wrestling is what it is.
It was also because it gets you past the state athletic board.
Yeah, that's a big part of it too. Yeah. I mean, just take my favorite wrestler of all time is Mick Foley, right? He's my absolute favorite. And the reason that he became my favorite was because when he came into the WWE, he was this weird, strange mankind character. These vignettes that they would play of him being backstage with a rat, and then he was like attacking under. It's just a lot of this mystery surrounding him. And when he would wrestle, he would I distinctly remember him coming up with Paul Bearer, who, we can talk about managers at another time because I miss those too. But he came up with Paul Bearer and then he'd hurt his knee or something, right? And he's sitting on the apron and Paul Bearer hands him a fork and he starts stabbing his knee to get feeling back into his knee. I was like, this guy's unhinged. And I just absolutely was enthralled by Mick Foley from that point on, right? But like that doesn't seem like it unless I'm just missing it. And again, I like wrestlers that are wrestling today. There's plenty that I'm fans of, but they're just, where's that mystique at, right? I want that with this stuff.
I always wondered if because I always like, oh, man, I love the sport of it. Everyone likes to talk about the sport of pro wrestling and how it's like super athletic now, which is cool. But I think we miss the unbelievableness in some instances.
Yeah.
The characters that we, it was legit like watching superheroes and supervillains battle each other, and now they look like it, a lot of them look like people you can find in your office or go to Target or Hooters, and they're there. You know what I mean? It's
especially Hooters.
Yes. But do you think that was somebody brought this up, and I never thought about it until I think it was on a wrestling podcast, and they mentioned that the new generation of wrestlers today wrestle each other way too much. And it's kind of like the accessibility. We see them too much before a pay-per-view. If you watch Raw, like I remember watching Raw, it was always two guys that were in different matches. They would team up with,
there's a formula, and there's a formula right to it. Like you'll see, like if people are in a program together, I already know a month before the pay-per-view, they're going to trade wins. There might be a tag team match somehow, but they're going to, when the real money on that stuff is making people want to see them, get into the ring together.
So bring back the squash match.
Yes, I miss those.
Bring back Johnny, do you remember this? On Saturday mornings, old school WWF, you'd watch
it was a lot of squash matches.
You'd watch the squash match, and then the promo, the little promo thing would come down to the bottom of the corner. So I'd watch the Ultimate Warrior, and then all of a sudden the Ultimate Warrior would be facing Ravishing Rick Rude at Survivor or Royal Rumble or something, and Ravishing Rick Rude would drop a promo during the match. So you're watching the Ultimate Warrior beat the crap out of this guy, and Rick Rude's giving this promo, and you're like, oh, I hate Rick Rude.
Yeah.
Oh, he's talking so much bad stuff about the Ultimate Warrior. I hate him, but yet you're still getting the Ultimate Warrior, and you're watching the Ultimate Warrior just destroy this guy.
Yeah.
You're watching Jake the Snake.
He destroyed a lot of people, but that's because he wasn't a great wrestler.
I'm not going to lie. Yeah. I'm not going to lie. I enjoy the squash match. When they started doing that with Braun Strowman, I was watching more because I wanted to see the squash match. And then
I'm glad you brought up Braun Strowman because that leads me to Bray Wyatt, right? Like he was probably in my wrestling fandom the last guy that really gave me the same feels as like a Mick Foley did, right? Like he was very kind of weird and mysterious. He sort of had this cult behind him. I thought he had his promos were not like anybody else's promos. He had a very different way of talking, and he really drew me in with just how different he was. And then everybody else was sort of sounding the same. It's probably from the whole they're trying to really script them and that kind of stuff. But I just miss the original sounding and original promos. You just don't really get those very much anymore, to the point where when you do have one like a quote unquote pipe bomb or something, it goes viral because they just don't happen very often.
Yeah, he did a very good job pulling off the gimmicky stuff, but I don't know what it was. It's just Vince could not get behind him. Remember that one year he was I think he did it was just recently, like before he got released, he had a really good year. He was doing the Firefly Funhouse, and
notoriously Vince did not like him. I mean, that's a very well-known thing. He was
one of the best characters.
Did his father do Vince's taxes?
That's what I heard. But like that's the last time I really remember somebody's promo ability really bringing me in, right? Is like that. I think there's still guys today who really, I mean, I think The Miz is an incredible at promos when he's allowed to be, but he's sort of been like, like nobody even talks about him anymore. And it's just, where is this? Just give me this originality. Like, just let these people kind of breathe a little bit when they're doing their promos. It's just, I just miss the days of these amazing. I mean, I go back and just on YouTube and we'll just look up awesome promos and just listen to them.
Yeah. I do too. That there's a nice art to talking and delivery that's just it's so cookie cutter, like the backstage interviews and all that funny stuff. It's all feel the same. Like there's like Warrior. Everybody remembers Ultimate Warrior promos, right? The rocket ship and the dirt, all that crazy talk. Macho Man with his changing of pitch. That's the stuff that people remember. Nowadays, it's just like
everybody's yelling.
I know, I know you hate it, but you're talking about promos. Oh my goodness, I'm going to say this, and I don't have a beer can in my head, but Jake the Snake had a very different promo for that.
I was going to bring him up. Yeah,
is I know Matt and Jake have some beef going on, but it was very different. And
it's because he didn't yell. He was very when he was giving his promos, he seemed more calculating with them in a way. Despite whatever run he had with Matt, his promo style was really good back in the day.
And it's sad. The only person I like to listen to a promo today is, and we talked about Roman Reigns, is Paul Heyman. I think Paul Heyman is the only one that can deliver what you want to hear, where you're going to draw yourself in.
Matt, who was the guy on panel discussion we was talking about? And I was like, I can't remember his name. Oh, was it he yells all the time and I couldn't stand him because he's what's his name? He's a heel.
MJF.
Yeah, MJF. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, man, I think he says some great stuff and he could be a great heel. And he obviously doesn't have a problem talking in front of a crowd. And I think he has really good charisma with that stuff. But just stop yelling so much at me.
He is a loud talker.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is intriguing because I think before, when you didn't dislike a character or didn't dislike a wrestler, it wasn't a go away kind of hatred, right? It wasn't a get the heck off my TV kind of thing. I want to like you as my bad guy. Nowadays, it is that, like Baron Corbin's one.
He's so bad.
But he would have been an a heel that people love to see get beat up back in the day.
Yeah.
Now people are legit like, hey, get off my TV. I can't stand you. And it's a different type of, I think, just wrestling consumer now. Like, it's so weird. Like they really want to cheer for and love their bad guys now. And they want to, they want a certain mold for everything. And
I kind of think the Attitude Era, for better and for worse, because obviously it was by far the most popular wrestling had ever been. But also that started, you had these characters who were not completely babyface or good guy, or were not completely heel or bad guy. Stone Cold is the ultimate example of that, right? Mm-hmm. Like he would literally just stun everybody. He didn't care if you were a good guy or a bad guy. He just stun you anyway. And so I think that kind of started leading people to be like, well, I really like this bad guy, so I'm going to cheer him. And honestly, I love a lot of the heels, but if I ever see them like at an actual wrestling match, I make sure that I boo them because that's what they want me to do. And in a way, that's me showing appreciation for their work. So that's why I boo them, but you get these people just cheer and stuff like, you're going to change them babyface and then you're going to hate them for being a babyface.
Well, I think Stone Cold was very relatable. And that's what they
very much
really, really worked that angle of this average guy. I'm going to go in there. I'm going to beat up my boss. I know a lot of people have said that, but I think that's the one thing that really got Stone Cold over.
Oh yeah.
Is that he was that guy that seemed like he worked a 9 to 5, did like construction or something, and would go home, drink a 12-pack, fall asleep, and get back up in the morning and do it again. His boss, who sits behind a desk, is always pushing him around. And
Yeah, but if you think about it, though,
I
the
don't-
first time he ever, and this is getting really wrestling nerdy here,
Yeah.
but the first time he ever actually sort of starts becoming the Stone Cold we all like, it's when he stuns Vince McMahon, and if you really watch that segment, all it is Stone Cold had gotten hurt, and Vince McMahon's like, man, we can't have you wrestling, and you're going to hurt yourself. That's literally where Vince McMahon's coming from, and I'm not a Vince McMahon fan, obviously, but like that's what he was doing. In a way, he was being a concerned person for Stone Cold's health. And Stone Cold's like, well, he flips him off and stuns him. We're like, oh yeah, this guy's awesome. Yeah. And I was like, well, really, in this case, neither one of them are really a bad guy here until somebody gets stunned.
Yeah. Go ahead, Andrew. Sorry. We keep cutting you off.
The relatability too is like, as a kid, I hated Ric Flair. But now I realize, and Ric Flair is a guy that's still living his gimmick to this day, I believe, 100%.
Oh yeah.
I don't think Ric Flair can get out of that gimmick. But I hated Ric Flair as a kid. And then all of a sudden, but when I found out about it, kind of like what you said, it was like, wow, he's just doing a really good job at his job. So now I kind of have to respect, what he's doing in the ring and his promos and stuff. And that's where the internet and stuff comes into play as well.
Yeah, the internet's a big. I think it's an issue.
Yeah, I definitely want to talk about the internet, but real quick, I think the art of the heel promo, and Paul Heyman is a fantastic example of this, is not just building up your own guy or yourself, but also your opponent.
Yeah.
Because if you're just sitting there saying, I remember, obviously the NWO was a big thing, and Kevin Nash and Scott Hall were awesome. I really liked them too, but they spent a lot of their time just literally mocking whoever their opponents were, never once really building them up. And it's a very tone different from, Paul Heyman sitting there like when, whoever, like anytime, when he was Brock Lesnar's manager, anytime Brock Lesnar was going to get somebody, he always would be sure to build that other person up at the same time while still saying that Brock Lesnar was going to beat him, right? Like he would never, ever felt he would build both parties up. And that's the thing that I really, really miss. That's probably why I'm a big fan of Mick Foley too, because he seemed to go out of his way to make sure that not only was he going to get over, but whoever he was wrestling was also going to be getting over, right? Like he'd be benefiting both of them.
I don't see any underdog like Mick Foley today either, though.
That's true.
But that's one of the things that you rooted for him at certain points.
I think the last one might have been Daniel Bryan, maybe. It's probably the last one I can think of.
That
was big.
That was big, yes.
Yeah. But even now, though, what is he now? If Mick Foley comes back, everybody still thinks of him as the underdog. I know he can practically not even walk at some point, but thank you, Mick, for putting your body on the line to entertain me. I'm not going to. Thank you for putting your body on the line to entertain me.
His podcast is fantastic, by the way.
But
it's so good, so good.
It's one of those things where that's the other thing is there's no underdog. There's no. Could this guy pull it off?
Yeah.
Could
you want somebody to root for, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Can David beat Goliath? And I think that's the story as old as time.
I think
the whole David Goliath thing is that's.
And then when they do have it, like Kofi Kingston not too long ago, won the championship. Right now, was a big deal, and I was very happy to see it. I've always loved Kofi. He's very much can be this underdog because he's kind of a small guy to start with. And he just seems really fun, and I really like. He just seems like he's somebody you want to hang out with or whatever. And he comes off very well, is what I'm trying to say. And he becomes a champion, and it set the world on fire. Right, everybody was very happy. It went viral, as they say. Everybody's very excited that this guy was the championship, and then he goes up against Brock Lesnar and loses in one move.
Right?
Yeah,
like you just took what you built up that you could have sustained a little bit more. And I'm not saying he should have beat Brock Lesnar, but at least make it where the match that I really remember is, do you remember when Jeff Hardy took on The Undertaker and The Undertaker kept beating him down, but Jeff Hardy kept getting up and he still lost. Hardy still lost, but in that loss, he gained The Undertaker's respect. And in that same way, that also built up Jeff Hardy, even though he lost, and they just don't really do stuff like that anymore. It feels like
that's a very good point because the storytelling doesn't matter. Like when they've done the way that pro wrestling TV is now, winning and losing does not matter. It has no there's no importance on winning or losing. It really does not matter. they don't emphasize it enough. AEW tried with their system thing, and then I think they kind of went away from it.
I think they still show like what somebody's record is, but it's like they never really talk about it.
No,
Right.
it doesn't factor into anything because MJF was like killing it, and he never even got a title. Or you think he got what, one title shot or something? Maybe.
Yeah,
maybe. Yeah, it's just if these wrestling companies treated wrestling like a legit sport, I think in some instances where, you know, the champion is maybe defending a little bit more, or wins and losses did go a long way. You can have a guy, you know what I mean? We watched it not too long ago. It was Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder, right? Hawkins is on this big losing streak, and it made for a fun story. They eventually won the tag team titles, but at the same time, it's like, it just, you know, what does that make your champion look like? This guy who can't beat anybody all of a sudden beats your champion, and it's just, I don't know. It's peculiar.
Well, that's the cool thing. And that's probably the only time I'm ever going to say this. That was the cool thing Vince Russo did with a lot of the stuff. Everybody on that roster mattered. So even if you lost a lot, you won a lot, you were lower in the card, you were a mid card, you mattered. I felt like that even in the Attitude Era. I was compelled to see Steve Blackman and Al Snow wrestle together as head cheese, even though I knew they would probably never get the title.
Yeah.
I wanted to see
if Val Venus would get his pee-pee chopped off. You know, I needed to know these things.
Exactly. There was a storyline for everybody other than this guy's going to wrestle this guy in the ring. He weighs this much. He weighs this much. Let's.
That's kind of part where it brings you into it, right? In other sports, even like, who are the most compelling characters, right? Are the ones who sort of are larger than life, right? And when they talk, you know, UFC is a great example. Who are the fighters that you talk about more? Is it the ones who are sort of like, I just went in there and put up a good fight, or is it the ones who are sitting, you know, boasting and stuff like that? Those are the ones you love or hate them. You talk about them, right? And that's kind of how, you know, wrestling's sort of kind of getting away from its own self. I think it feels like sometimes, and I do think the internet has a lot to do with this, that pro wrestling seems to be almost embarrassed about what it is and where it came from, when it should really be like, hey, this is our history. We can embrace this and improve upon it, because that's what you should do. You should learn from it and improve upon it.
Well, yeah, they just started calling it wrestling again.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
you know, that's a prime example. You weren't allowed to call them wrestlers; they were superstars. Or we don't wrestle, we sports entertain. And like, it's so just. And I'm actually like disappointed in a way that Vince kind of went that direction. You know, I don't know if he had too many outside influences or what, but it's very weird for somebody, you know, to think that that's what came about.
Especially when he pretty much grew up in the stuff.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that was just a way to.
By the way, Vince McMahon, North Carolina.
Oh, there we go. We're gonna go.
You're welcome.
Well, there you go. You're the problem of all this today. You're the problem.
I really do want to talk about the internet aspect of this too. You know, we kind of, before we hit record, I think it was Matt who sort of brought up the internet sort of kind of ruins wrestling and other things at the same time. It ruins a lot of stuff. And I think that's true. I think a lot of times as fans who are hardcore fans of something, and we may not even realize it some of the times, but either it's through our quote unquote gatekeeping, or it's through the fact that we're such a hardcore nerd. We want to fantasy book stuff. And if it doesn't go exactly how we feel that it should go, and we're an obvious expert in this, then that it's wrong or bad or whatever. And, you know, and then we'll tear it down with like going well beyond where you should go with something like that. If you're not being, you know, if you're not joking around, but a lot of people are very serious when they're criticizing stuff. I wouldn't want to be, I remember when I was a kid, I was like, man, I really want to be like a pro wrestler. Or I think I really wanted to be a manager when I was a kid, because I like to talk, obviously. And I was like, I think I can talk people in and out of a building, you know, but I think it would be awful to be that today. Right. I mean, Matt can speak on this even more than me, but like being a, you know, I'm like a Z level podcaster, right? And I can pretty much say any stupidity I want for the most part, and nobody's going to like hunt me down on the internet and That's only literally happened like once or twice ever.
Right.
He's gonna hunt me down on the internet and say, really read me the right act or whatever, or tell me that what I'm doing is a complete sin or whatever it may be.
Yeah. I dealt with that I dealt with that with the 2 Point Facebook page all the time.
Yeah.
I realized that page made me realize I do not want to be famous. I do not want to be under the public microscope. I don't want to be known like at all. I'm like reclusing slowly but surely. Yeah, dude, it's not worth it. I mean, well, maybe money makes it worth it. It
does it?
It's like a catch-22.
I don't know,
right?
man. Listen. It does. They say more money, more problems, but I've been working like 60, 70 hour work weeks, making a lot of cheese at work, and all my problems are slowly being paid off and going away. And I'm a much happier person.
And I'm waiting for him to pay it all off so he can just start giving me money for being his friend.
He's still
back of the line.
He still owes me back pay from
Actually, no. Actually, Johnny was first. Johnny was first before you, Andrew. So
thank you, Andrew. Get behind me. Or as Matt would say, you better step up, son.
I think I'd rather just I'll just get paid in muffins. If we could do that, that would be better too.
Yeah.
Oh man, I mean this. I know this is going to sound weird, but I really want to try your wife's muffins. But just so the internet knows, his wife literally makes muffins.
Yes.
Yeah. Just it's not untowards.
Cancel him right now. Cancel him.
Not untowards.
Yes. I still not to get too off topic. I still remember last year when I was up there and Matt was like, I'm going to give you don't get your you know what I'm talking about. Let's not get crazy here. And he was like, I'll come and get you and we'll go to the studio and we'll record and I'll bring you breakfast. So he brings this bag. He's got the bag. He's like, there's a scone in there. There's a muffin. And then there's a breakfast sandwich. Whatever you don't eat, I'll have. And I'm like, oh, okay. This is good. What a nice guy. So I ate the scone and I ate the muffin. And then he's like, are you going to eat the breakfast sandwich? And so badly, there's a part of me to go, you know what, Matt? Just like Ace Ventura, Jim Carrey and Ace Ventura going, that's none of your damn business, Matt. Because I just really wanted that breakfast sandwich too, because everything was just tasting so wonderful. And I just wanted to eat it all. But I was a nice guy. I was a good friend. I did not pay for it. So I said, Matt, you can
You
have
should have just told me no.
No, I couldn't do that to you.
The mystery here is what kind of breakfast sandwich was it?
I don't know, but I didn't care at that point. After I ate the scone and the muffin, I'm pretty sure you could have been like, Prince's dog turds are in there. I'm like, well, it looks like a Tootsie Roll to me, and if your wife baked it, I'm eating it.
That's good to know.
Yeah, that's how good it is. That's how good it is.
So good you eat dog turds.
Yeah.
Wait, bro. Wait. Are you saying my wife's breakfast sandwich tastes like dog turds?
No.
He's saying that if your wife she's gonna cancel both.
I'm just being the internet. I'm just the face of the internet.
The internet has no face.
We should do that. There should be a guy on every podcast show just named the internet.
Yeah.
It sits in the back
and just hates on everything.
just makes comments.
You're not allowed to like anything.
Yeah. I thought there was good special effects. No, CGI was terrible. I saw. As we're bragging on wrestling today, right now.
I could tell she wasn't really a big green woman.
but yeah, I think the other thing the wrestling does too is the magic of wrestlers moving from promotion to promotion. That was the big thing. That was the big thing with the NWO. That was a big thing with Lex Luger going from WWE to, WCW at that point.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I don't want to know wrestler movement like I want to know NBA players or NFL players or, actual, I don't want to say actual athletes, but, those type of players.
I think, I mean, obviously, when Vince McMahon sort of bought everything, that definitely took that out of the equation. I do think that one of the benefits, even if you like or hate AEW, is the fact that that's another pretty decent sized company that gives more. Competition is always good for anything because it means you got to build yourself up and be better. And I do think now, and maybe it's because we're in the post Vince McMahon era, just recently, Johnny Gargano showed up back on WWE, and nobody really knew he was going to do that. Honestly, most people thought he was going to show up on AEW at some point, but then he just shows up back in WWE, and it was like a big deal. So I do think they're getting better with that, but for sure, there was like a span of 15 plus years where like that magic just was not there.
Yeah, and you just and everything, people getting released, everything else, like I just want a little mystery, like whatever happened to that guy. I don't want to know that he got released or anything. It's just maybe something happened to him, or
but that's big business now, though, right?
Yeah,
like being able to know that stuff. Just like in any sports, really, everybody wants to be the next Woj, dropping those Woj bombs for the NBA, right?
Well, it's like the CM Punk thing. Like it would have been so much better if nobody would have known.
Yeah,
but they made such a big deal about it before that you like knew that it was going to happen, and it wasn't great. Yes.
Yeah, they don't let things like develop. They don't let things develop at all when it, like, I think with storytelling a lot too. Like you said, the CM Punk thing, not knowing. Are you referring to when he went on for the pipe bomb or after the pipe bomb? Or
anytime with like
they should have let him defend that title in other promotions. They should have.
Yeah, that would have really went a long way.
And that would have. I mean, it seems like so like crazy and small, but no, that's the little stuff that people want to see. Is Punk going to these different promotions and doing stuff like that? It's weird because on one hand you're like, man, I wish pro wrestling wouldn't take itself so seriously, but on the other, the other side of it, it's like, yeah, kind of wish you did.
you can find a good balance, but I don't know if they know how to do that.
No, they don't, and it's like, oh, it's so unfortunate that none of these like promotions get along. It's like, everybody can be all right. They do.
You know what I miss? I really miss when they were going to bring in a wrestler, but before he debuts, they would do these little vignettes or whatever.
Yeah,
like kind of give little hints of them and stuff. I really miss those. They don't really do that very much anymore.
Like, who are they? Like, the
Razor
Ramon ones were amazing.
Oh,
like, I was like, yes,
Mr. Perfects. Yeah, Mr. Perfects were awesome. I mean, Mankind's. I mentioned Mankind's earlier. I just missed those. I think NXT does that a little bit, but other than that, I can't really think of like. I just wish the big ones would do that every once in a while. Hey, this person showed up. Let's start showing little. I will say, the WWE recently brought back. Oh gosh, I forget his name. Who's an NXT wrestler? But the way that they had him come back was like in the background of stuff that was they would have stuff happening in the background.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
And it was actually really neat how they did it. It was a little different. Like there was like a car crash when they were interviewing somebody behind them, like it was an accident. And you can tell like everybody's questioning on the internet, like what's happening back there. And then like this past week, just this guy comes out of nowhere and literally kidnaps the Miz. And guess what? For a couple of days, the Miz was quiet. We didn't know what was happening there. And I just love that stuff. Like, just bring that, keep doing that, please. Work me. I want to be worked, Matt.
It's the kayfabe aspect of it. Going back to the accessibility of these guys. And it was cool to see like the whole Heath Slater thing. You know, the man didn't live in a trailer park when he was doing the I Got Kids thing. You know, he wasn't living in a trailer park, but there he was. Like, here's Heath Slater in a trailer park with like 3 kids. It just made him look completely just poor and everything else. But you know, that's not how he's living. But it was cool to see. One of my favorite things that I can remember as a kid was the whole Mean Gene training with Hulk Hogan. They're at like Mean Gene's house and they're training together and they're like, so I got to do this. I got to drink these eggs, Hulk, and stuff like that. And for the longest time, I'm glad they came out with protein powder because when I was actually working out, I was like, oh my goodness, do I got to drink eggs? Rocky did it, so I guess I have to, but I never did. But that type of stuff too is showing them outside, but within their character's realm of outside.
We all know what pro wrestling is. We all know the magic behind it now. So you don't have to talk about that anymore, right? On your actual programming. You
Right.
know, when we all knew that Mick Foley was Mankind and Cactus Jack and Dude Love. Everybody and their mom knew that he was all three of those characters. Yet when he showed up in that Royal Rumble as all three characters, I popped every time.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the other thing too, is there's not too big of I don't notice any more pops unless somebody returns.
Yeah.
Like Edge when he returned, that was probably one of the biggest ones, or AJ Styles when he came in. But other than that, if you go back and you listen to like when the Road Warriors came out,
Or every time the
Kurt-
glass shattered for a Stone Cold, you know,
yeah.
run-in.
Yeah. Just that sound, people would go crazy.
there's
I
none
go
of
nuts for it. I go nuts for it still to this day. I listen to it and I'm like, legit look up Stone Cold Steve Austin entrance pops, and it's just segments. You know, you got a heel that can go all out, right? Isn't restricted by verbiage or just a whole bunch of other factors. He's being a douche, and you just want to see him get beat up, and then Stone Cold hits, and you know something crazy is about to happen.
is there
They-
any oh sorry.
No, I was just saying they don't have anything like that, like a star power like that anymore.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
or interacting with like people's interest music. I mean, some of them kind of sing them sometimes, but
Yeah.
like with Kurt Angle's, right? And people would start jumping in on the "you suck" thing, and that was kind of part of it. That was fun, and that's just because you think people would do that if Kurt Angle wasn't good at what he was doing? No,
Right.
Or Bret Hart's glasses. Damn it, I still want Bret Hart's glasses.
yeah, or
That's
or,
old.
you know,
That's
or Rey
old school.
Mysterio's always like giving kids in the crowd something.
That's-
Yeah, I want his eye. I want his
Yeah.
eye that fell out.
Yeah, I do too. I want to grab that eye and put it on display.
But that's just all that stuff right there. And I don't think there's anything that really gets you like anything going of that standard of Stone Cold coming out, or you smell what the Rock is cooking, or anything like that
I was going to bring that
Yeah.
up, like just entrance music for wrestlers now in general
is horrible.
doesn't seem as fun. It all kind of sounds the same-ish to me now. It's all like heavy metal stuff, all of it. And then some of it, I mean, I like some of it, don't get me wrong, but when all of it sounds exactly the same, and if I turn away from wrestling and I come back to it, I don't know who this is. Like,
Why was
I can't tell the
Cesaro?
It's like old, it's not jobber music, but back in the day, like 90s, 2000, late 90s, early 2000s, that guy that would like show up once every other month, like that was his theme song. It was some
Yeah.
really bad rock song.
But now it's
And-
just like all like just these bands that just scream when they sing the whole time. I was like, I've had enough.
It's not tailored to the wrestler.
Yeah, it's no ass man for sure.
Yeah, Ass Man, Hillbilly Jim's is absolutely tailored to him.
Yeah.
Matt's a big fan, I know, of the Honky Tonk Man song, and that is
Oh, I love
tailored when
Honky and Rick Martel and like
Shawn Michaels. There's no like,
Oh yeah,
I think it's got to be.
he's
a
not your
noise.
boy toy, guys. By the way,
It's a noise or a line.
Yeah.
But you know it's going to happen. Like Shawn
yeah,
Michaels.
anytime I heard a car crash, I knew Mick Foley was coming out.
Like when you hear "Oh Sean," you were like, "Yeah."
Yeah,
Actually, you know what? I thought that was Razor Ramon. I'm not gonna lie. At that Dallas one, when I heard the car crash, because I remember Razor Ramon having a car crash.
yeah.
But
There's also been some that I've hated. I still to this day hated when Scott Steiner would come out because it's just that siren over and over and over. It's like I could do without that, please.
like Cesaro, there's a guy. I'm sounding like Chris Collinsworth. That
Here's a guy.
that was so good in the ring and stuff. You can, his promo was off, but yet they gave him like the crappiest gimmicks and stuff like that instead of just saying, be you. I've heard stuff like Jim Cornette talks about Dusty Rhodes when he would give promo classes and character classes. He would say, "But who are you?" And when you talk about that, is who are you? You're given the same generic vanilla promo every single time. Who are you coming at you? And then unfortunately, like New Jack, when I watched Dark Side of the Ring, he said one of the things that made him kind of a little bit nutty was when his trainer said, "You have to create something that nobody's ever seen before." And then we got New Jack, and the rest is history on that one. And
Yeah.
that's the generic vanilla things is there's no one liner, there's no noise, Undertaker bells, Kane with the organ.
Are there any like catchphrases that are current? I'm trying
Uh,
to think of any.
The last one I knew is you can't see me.
Or the yes chant.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's
I mean, that's been a while back too, though. I mean, obviously, I've hated some of them. Like anytime the crowd does that what stuff, it makes me hate Stone Cold.
yeah.
Because I can't stand that. Everything else I love about Stone Cold, but I'll never forgive him for that what chant.
I completely forgot about catchphrases until you brought that up.
Man, it's just it's a big part of the wrestling when I was growing up was these catchphrases from any of the eras when I was really into it. There's always somebody with a catchphrase or something.
Yeah, because you wanted to go out and say it amongst your friends. You know, you want to tell your friends, "Hey, suck it,"
Yeah.
or you know what I mean, or
or do the oh yeah.
Oh yeah. I used to leave voicemails, voice messages on my friends' phones when Teddy Long was the GM of SmackDown. I'd be like, holla, holla, holla.
Or if I say, "Can you dig it?" and nobody says "sucker" after that, then I don't know if we can be friends.
Right.
That's 100% true. I still tell my kids sometimes when they're like, "Why?" and I'm like, "And that's the bottom line," because I said so. I'm not gonna lie. To this day, I can still. I tell my kids, I shout out the Road Dog. Go, "Oh, you didn't know?" And my kids are older, and then I always say, "Your ass better go call somebody," when they say no. But that was the thing. To this day, I can still do the Road Dog and Mr. Ass, when they're in the ring introducing themselves, because that gravitated me towards them. And Road Dog was much better of a talker than Mr. Ass, but that's I completely forgot about the catchphrase, but the catchphrases were the best.
Yeah.
The rest in peace.
It was kind of a part of it, part of their character, right?
You can market it on shirts, and now it's just like, oh, I'm the head of the table.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's probably the
it's like the Simpsons meme. It's like the Simpsons meme. We were all standing around Bart, whatever wrestler that is, and we were like waiting for him to say it. And then he said it, and we were like, oh yeah, he's gonna get crazy out here. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That was like,
have a nice day,
Yeah.
Yes.
The woos and stuff like that. And Vader was until he got to WWF, but Vader, when you saw that come out with the Mastodon helmet and the smoke coming out of it, scared the crap out of me as a kid, but it was still awesome. But you knew it was getting crazy when you heard it's time. It's Vader time.
Yeah, I mean, I popped when he showed up on Boy Meets World. So what do I do?
So there you go. I mean, that's was like the craziest things. I think that's what got me into ECW too, was the catchphrases and the unlicensed music that should have been licensed, but never was.
ECW also would take chances too, though. I mean, sure, they were known for being very hardcore, but then you would have like when Mick Foley showed up in there, he purposely went away from all that so the crowd would boo him, right? Like he put on quote unquote boring matches on purpose. And this is a major name. I mean, he wasn't as big as he would get, obviously get bigger in WWE, but he was a known name. And come in there just purposely putting on like headlock after headlock, and it was just kind of brilliant.
And that was probably the last promotion that gave you a little bit of everything without shoving it down your throat in a way.
Yeah.
Because you could, before like Malenko and them left, you could see the technical match, and then you would see the crazy matches with Sabu. And you could see, later on when like Mike Awesome came in, you would see the athletic big man, and you could see Rob Van Dam. What is crazy Rob Van Dam gonna do?
Yeah.
And everything else. And the other thing,
they didn't really have people who looked the same either.
No.
A lot of different looks. I mean, everybody from Bam Bam Bigelow to Taz, all these people who had a very distinct look about themselves.
Balls Mahoney, who looks like he sells hot dogs outside of like
Balls Mahoney.
Yeah.
Like on the corner of a neighborhood.
Yeah, I mean, I've got big balls.
My guy was still always Rob Van Dam. And that was another thing. You do it because you'd put it behind you do the thumbs behind your back to your friend. Yeah. Like
I met Balls one time. Dude was nuts.
Good guy
out of his mind.
Good guy, like out of his mind, or
somebody gave him a bottle of 7-Up.
Oh,
and a bottle of vodka, and he poured 7/8 of the bottle of 7-Up out and just mixed vodka. And he, I know this is a kid-friendly show, but he had a lot of pills too going into the his match. So,
Yeah.
yeah, good times. Nothing
Let me ask this, Matt. Out of all the famous wrestlers that you've had the chance to meet, which ones were positive experiences?
Yeah.
Yeah, those ones I want to know about.
well,
Demolition was the nicest.
I did
Who
hear.
Demolition.
Oh,
They actually talked to me.
Wait, you kept that for me from all these years?
You never asked. You never
I'm gonna
asked.
we're gonna have story time with Matt on this show. That's gonna be once a year. We're just gonna sit down Matt and we're gonna just berate him with questions about his wrestling career.
Him and Will both like Johnny Gargano. I remember that they both told me that he was. A nice guy.
He's a cool guy. Johnny's a cool guy. No, Demolition was really nice. They asked me, them and Roddy Piper were the nicest. Roddy walked up to me and said hi. Like we were sitting in a chair in a circle, and he walked up behind me and said hi. He's like, "Hi, I'm Roddy." And I'm like, I was like, "Well, shit, let me stand up. Hi, I'm Matt. Nice to meet you." He stuck up behind me. And that was one of the coolest things was meeting Roddy. But Demolition was really neat. They just super down to earth, just good people. They didn't take themselves too seriously. I think one of them passed away a couple years ago.
Did they?
But maybe. But yeah, they were really nice.
I don't want to sound like mad bad, but it's the original. It's like Axe and Smash, not Crush thing.
Crush.
Okay.
Yeah, Axe and Smash. They were there. I think they wrestled, not in their like gear. Obviously, they did the paint and whatnot, but they were pretty cool. I'm trying to think who else. Scotty Zuhadi was really neat.
He seems awesome. Now that
he's a good dude.
By the way, just so the audience knows, Matt, how long did you wrestle for?
4 years, 5 years, something like that.
And you got to meet quite a few known names.
I did. I got to do backstage for WWE at one point.
Yes, yeah, but he's just so everybody knows he's struggling to come up with positive encounters.
Yeah,
it hasn't been all that good.
That's because it's so different, right? That's why I was very curious about your thoughts on this, because you were behind the scenes with that stuff. I'm just a fan, and so most of my interactions with wrestlers has been very positive, save for one, and I could chalk that up to that dude just probably having a bad day, right? And I just happened to approach, and he wasn't super rude to me or anything like that. It was just kind of off-putting a little bit, right?
Yeah.
But overall, like I met Mick Foley multiple times, Matt Hardy, some wrestlers I really like, and they've all been very, very positive experiences. But you've not only met some of them, you've even worked with some of them, or you've been backstage with them, and you've kind of witnessed stuff.
Who's the biggest one you worked with? Like
Ted DiBiase, that little spot I did.
That's so cool.
That's awesome.
Where we did the push-up challenge, and he embarrassed me.
Well,
actually in a ring it would be Ted DiBiase. I also tagged up with Hornswoggle. That was pretty cool.
That's awesome. You mean oh man, who is he related to again? I forget. Was it Vince McMahon himself?
He's Vince McMahon's son, allegedly.
I love that the one where on the Major Wrestling Figure podcast, if you watch it on YouTube, there's one where he got so hammered and they're in the hotel.
Oh, he's an alcoholic, yeah.
And he's getting pushed around on like the luggage cart, and that's how they got him up to his room.
Yeah.
He didn't walk.
When I was backstage hanging out with Brody Lee, he was Luke Harper at the time. They were making fun of him. They had him sitting down. It was kind of funny because we were just sitting in these nice padded seats, and his legs weren't hitting the floor for obvious reasons, but they were all ripping on him for just being just a drunk butthole, just a bad person. They were all ripping on him. And it was funny because I sat there and had a takeout and I see him like 3 years later, and he had You got to pretend like you never met him before, even though you heard everything. That's the unfortunate thing too about being in it, is that a lot of these guys, they forget about you unless you
Yeah.
see them pretty frequently.
Right. Yeah.
Well, Luke Harper is probably one of your most positive ones, right?
Yeah. I mean, I knew him before he got big, obviously, but yeah, he was great. I miss him. Good dude.
Yeah. That one sucked when he.
Yeah.
That was one of the ones that sucked for sure.
Yeah.
And Roddy too. That one also. I mean, that's the thing too, right? Some of these wrestlers become so big for us fans when we're fans of the product that when tragedy strikes, which sadly happens a lot in this, in wrestling, that it really affects you. Like I still remember when I heard Roddy Piper passed away. Like that ruined my whole day. And I never met the guy. Right? I never actually met the guy, and it just ruined my day. Like I was just, man, I was just so sad that
Macho
day.
Man died on my birthday.
Oh wow! See,
Jeez.
It was the worst day ever. Me and my girlfriend at the time, we were at Darien Lake, and we were in line. I was really excited to go ride the Ride of Steel Superman ride. So excited. And I get the notification, Macho Man's gone. I was like, what? It was horrible. And then I got on the Ride of Steel, and I was too tall.
oh man,
My legs were too big. They only got one click in. They're like, hey, you can just hold on really tight if you want to. Meanwhile, like some vet dude like died by falling out of it like the week before. I'm like, nah, I'm good. I am
And-
good on that. They legit were trying to like, you'll be all right. Just hold on real tight.
on top of that, your girlfriend probably didn't even make good muffins.
At the time, no.
See?
No.
It all goes back to the muffin.
It always
Always.
gets back.
Matt did it for
There's
the
always
muffins.
there's always money in the muffin stand.
He's not like Fred Durst. He did it for the muffins, not for the nookie.
The muffins, so you can take that cookie. That's why I'm always fascinated though with how Matt feels about certain wrestlers that he's actually met. It really puts another.
It's been a
perspective
long
on it.
time, but I think it might be prudent for me to put together a list of people like
I-
wrestlers that I met.
I would love it.
I would definitely like to see that because that would be.
I will do that. I will
I'll get
start
Will.
to-
I'll get Will to do it too. I bet Will. will.
Will's probably got a much better, obviously a much better catalog of people he's met because he did it a lot longer.
Yeah.
But
I've met two, and it's only been positive. Like Farouk came to the hospital that I was at,
yeah,
and then Lex Luger after he found Christ. So of course he was pretty cool. So
Well, I mean, I was telling Andrew the other day. I was like, Will was telling me and Matt a really great Hacksaw Jim Duggan story. So yeah, we got to have an episode of this where we just have, if we can get Will and Matt both
Yes.
on to just tell stories like that. It's so
stories
fun.
from the road.
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, there's a lot of classics.
Oh geez,
Yeah.
stories from the road. We got any other points we want to hit? I
I
pretty
think
much
I'm good.
internet. We need more catchphrases. We need
More mystery. More
more mystery,
Yeah.
and then non-generic promos,
Yeah.
non-generic entrance music. Well, they fired WWE. I think fired that Jim Johnson guy.
Yeah.
I
They
think
did,
that's what
yeah.
really sucked everything. But
Well, I mean, that's kind of the thing too. Like, I recently saw somebody on Twitter, as a comic book writer. I think it was Dan Slott, comic book writer. It might have been him, somebody like that, where where they said, "Hey, bring back the theme songs to TV shows that told you what the TV show was." And me and Andrew literally just talked about that, and I was like, "Yes." Yes, and I kind of miss wrestling songs that did the same thing, like "I'm an ass man," or
Yeah.
or Shawn Michaels theme song. I really do miss those.
he's a real American. Yeah, because that's
Yeah.
so funny. Because a lot of the stuff that we tiered was just based on that. We were like, oh, it tells you what it is already,
Yeah.
so we're good with it. We don't need anything other information. We can just jump right into the show.
Yeah.
And I think that's the way it should be. You just jump. You know from there. Do you like the wrestler or not?
I mean, I'm sure there's going to be at some point where I'll get back really hardcore into wrestling again. I think it is getting better again, but there'll come somebody who kind of gets big again, and we'll probably bring more people back into it. So
Yeah.
I mean, wrestling comes and goes in cycles.
It
I
does.
wa-
This has been a long cycle away from it, though. That's what I get worried
That's
about.
true. Yeah, that's true.
I do catch AEW every once in a while. And they just did Chris Jericho came back out as Lionheart. And I was like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
That
Yeah.
that really, and I watched it because normally it's like, oh nope, don't care, don't know who this person is, I'm done. And I think that's what Johnny said too, is the managers, or you could call them mentors for certain guys. If like a guy like Ted DiBiase is managing somebody, you're a little bit more intrigued. Why is he with them?
Yeah, he
Than,
recently,
say,
like, not too long ago, was doing something in NXT, and that's when I was watching NXT again because he was there, and the two guys he was kind of in a program with, I was like, oh, I like Cameron Grimes. See, I remember the guy's name because he
Yeah.
was in the program with them, and I was
Right.
like, I like his Cameron Grimes guy, and also he's a North Carolina guy, so don't let
Oh,
me down,
yeah.
Cameron Grimes. Don't be a piece of garbage, please. That's another thing I worry about anybody nowadays, because going back to what Matt said before, where there's so much access to honestly anybody famous now, where like I'm kind of worried about, I'm a big fan of this person, then you find out stuff's like, oh yeah, God. You know?
Yeah,
It's happening way
just did
too
a whole
much.
episode on that too. There's some great names on that one.
Oh man. I mean, I was telling Andrew, I don't even think this was recorded, but like I've seen a lot of stand-up comedy because I love stand-up comedy. And honestly, the one that I can remember that I had the best time at, that I laughed so hard that I legit did not feel good because I laughed so much. And that was Louis C.K. And of course, that was years ago, well before all that stuff came out about him. So,
Right.
so man, it's just scary to like anybody now. And by the way, that's why I can't get famous. I'm sure I've said some stupid things. Guaranteed.
No, I have.
But we had the benefit though that I don't know if Matt had this benefit because Matt's a little younger than Andrew and I, but like social media didn't even really become a thing till I was in my 20s, really. So you don't have to worry about people seeing stupid, dumb stuff you said when you're like a teenager, when you're still growing and trying to form who you are. And you say, like, when I was a teenager in my early 20s, I definitely said some really stupid stuff just to get a rise out of people because I thought that was what comedy was at the time. And I said some really embarrassing stuff that I would not be proud of. So I'm really glad that, MySpace, which was the big thing for us, and Facebook obviously didn't come around and become big until much later. Kind of saved me, really.
Bye for the best.
Yeah, definitely.
But that is it. Matt, you want to tell us about some of your other shows or promote
I don't-
anything going on?
I don't do anything else.
You don't do anything else? You
Oh,
do
that's
not.
not true. He's got this awful show called The Panel Discussion. It is just pure insanity and filth. And like, it's not you can't bring this podcast home to mom.
It's exactly what this show is not.
Yeah.
It is the anti. If there was a show called Let's Talk But Politics, okay, it would probably be The Panel Discussion. Complete
Yeah,
like
oh, yeah.
bizarro world,
But with no
opposite,
politics.
with no politics.
They're a little bit more crazier than what we are here.
Yes,
Slightly.
a lot of things that shouldn't be said are said.
Yeah. And we get great sponsors, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's some great, and Matt has some great co-hosts on there, Will, and then he lets me on there for some reason.
Yeah, and we have our friend Stu Lee and Prospector and
We have and
Baron von
Baron.
Kirshner.
We have characters that show up all the time. We
Yeah.
literally just had the guy who does the opening, for any of the Law and Orders. We had that guy show up recently. So you got to tune in to the panel discussion. You never know what's going to happen. And that's probably because we don't know.
We usually don't. We
like
usually
that.
don't.
But thank you once again for coming on. And with that being said, catch new episodes of Let's Talk But No Politics, okay, every Sunday on the BICBP Radio Network, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. And with that being said, good morning, good afternoon, and good night.
Can you dig it? Sucker.